The War of Drakaen Succession was fought between Mugen and Kleinstadt Jorvik, and the Coalition of the Bay of Peace later developed into the League of Virken, which consisted of Sarahaven, Puerto Amarillo, and Smegsland. Nidaros was also part of the coalition, however it remained neutral because of their treaties and deals with Jorvik and Mugen. The collapse of the Drakaen Concordat, formerly known as Regnum Drakaes, was one of the main catalysts for the war. The nation had experienced a period of decline for a large amount of the time by this point, and many within the nation felt that the Drakaes was on the verge of collapse, notably New York, which had recently joined Drakaes as a vassal, openly expressed their concern after Unir Almiron, a major figure in Drakaes' government, had disappeared. This instability was made worse by several bandit attacks on the territories of Sarahaven and the greater Amarillion area, Jorvik's sheltering of these bandits. Jorvik's government stated that they were preventing further bloodshed, and Puerto Amarillo and Sarahaven's representatives demanded the bandits be arrested and tried for murder. Drakaes, in its weak state, was essentially sidelined in this crisis. Knowing this to be the end, Sarahaven declared its independence from the Drakaen Concordat, citing that it was failing to protect its own citizens. They were followed by Puerto Amarillo in a succession led by light Poliosets. Following this, autarch Tiffany Canalopin of Drakaes announced the dismantling of the nation, at the shock of many, forcing Jorvik, Smegsland, Königsberg and Nidaros into independence. The newly independent states quickly worked together to agree their borders. Amarillo gained all of its native lands. The kingdom of Nidaros grew substantially all the way to the Mycera Sea, and southern Drakaes was split between Smegsland, Königsberg and the Old Guard, a group of Drakaen loyalists. The state of Mugen, formerly a mysterious organization, also gained a considerable amount of land, most of which came into conflict with Sarahaven's extremely ambitious claims. Disputes continued over the bandit crisis as Sarahaven, Amarillo and Smegsland signed a mutual defensive pact, naming it the Coalition of the Bay of Peace. Jorvik, meanwhile, agreed a deal with Mugen to merge their two states in the event a war broke out. War had seemed inevitable, with both sides unable to find a compromise. The kingdom of Nidaros, worried by the prospect of all-out war on their borders, arranged for the two sides to meet in Nidaros in an attempt to find a solution. Roland Sign, Hand of Nidaros, hosted the talks. Jorvik and Mugen sent Carthago, Delenda, and Bader as representatives, and Light Poliosets was sent to represent Amarillo's interests. Notably, however, Sarahaven failed to send a representative to the meeting, with many speculating that they wanted a war to break out. Ultimately, talks fell apart, with Light being in no position to accept Jorvikan demands, no willingness to back up Sarahaven's unreasonable demands, Amarillo having no demands to make outside of the guaranteed arrest of the bandits, which had already been agreed. Immediately after the conclusion of talks, Jorvik and Mugen declared themselves in a state of war with the Coalition of the Bay of Peace. The War of the Drakaen Succession had begun. Jorvik and Mugen merged as per their previous agreement, as both sides mobilized and prepared to fight. The first skirmish took place at Red Hill Fort, and was the only battle on Amarillion soil. Mugen sent a task force to secure the Strait of Virken and severed land communications between Sarahaven and Amarillo. The outnumbered Amarillians took position in the nearby Red Hill Fort, which had been built by the old Andrillian Empire. In the resulting battle, the Amarillion army managed to drive off Mugen, inflicting a high number of casualties and securing the strait. However, they suffered a large amount of casualties themselves, including General Light Poliosets, who was severely injured and thus unavailable for the remainder of the war. Hoping to cripple Sarahaven's war capabilities, Jorvik marched a large army north of Golden Haven, Sarahaven's capital, and planned to take the city of Port Haven, home to most of Sarahaven's fleet. Sarahaven had a large garrison there, larger than Jorvik's army sent to take the city, but Sarahaven was plagued by poor leadership. As a result, the battle was in Jorvik's favor. Amarillo also sent a small detachment to help Sarahaven. Heavy fighting ensued, with Jorvik coming dangerously close to taking the city. Instead of continuing, Jorvik began to attack the ships docked at Port Haven. They then staged an organized withdrawal from the city. While technically a victory for the coalition, Jorvik had attained their objective to weaken Sarahaven, as the city of Port Haven and most of their fleet lay in ruins. The coalition had also taken considerable casualties. The battle was a strategic Jorvikian victory. Following the Battle at Port Haven, Sarahaven hoped to retaliate against Jorvik and Mugen, while the rest of the coalition, Amarillo and Smegsland, hoped to consolidate their forces. Much to the dismay of the coalition, Sarahaven launched an attack on the city of Tree Lords, southeast of Jorvik, attempting to take the city entirely. As a result of their poor leadership, the brief battle at Tree Lords ended in a disaster for Sarahaven. Mugen and Jorvik anticipated a reckless move from the Sororians, and this played right into their hands. Most of those sent to take Tree Lords never returned to Sarahaven. MCATS, who led the assault, was reprimanded by the other coalition leaders. The war found itself going in Jorvik and Mugen's favor. In a desperate attempt to win the war, the coalition gathered most of their remaining forces and planned an assault on the city of Jorvik itself. They planned to sneak into the city in the cover of night and take control with minimal fighting. However, Mr. Ananas, one of the Sarahaven's generals, blew the coalition's cover by blowing up Jorvik's main gates, killing many civilians in the process. This alerted all nearby Jorvikan soldiers, who rushed to defend their home. The following bloodbath ended in a disaster for both sides. So the coalition, whose armies had been decimated, both by brutal street-to-street fighting and by bandits who raided the cities simultaneously. The Battle of Jorvik, while devastating for both sides, was an undisputable Jorvikan victory. Following the Battle of Jorvik, Sarahaven began to fall in on itself. Its army and economy had been decimated and its people began to panic. This was made worse by the sudden disappearance of MCATS, the nation's leader. All Manboy was left to take the reins, but Sarahaven was now at the point of no return. Jorvik and Mugen went on an all-out offensive, with their own exhausted armies facing little to no opposition as they advanced deeper into Sororian lands. Seeing the writing on the walls, representatives from the coalition met with their Jorvikan counterparts and agreed separate peace. The coalition would recognize Jorvikan claims on Goldhaven as well as Mugen's claims over Sarahaven, and in return the coalition would be forced to make no concessions themselves. Many in Sarahaven felt betrayed, but now there was nothing they could do. Unorganized fighting continued across the nation, but Mugen quickly asserted their control over the area. All Manboy, Whole Mess War, and the other remnants of the Sarahaven's government fled to Amarillo, where they were welcomed. This marked the end of the War of the Drakaen Succession, and the end of Sarahaven as a nation. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, leave a like, it's free and you can also subscribe later. As you can see, I tried a British accent in this video. This is not to make fun of anyone, I just think that using a British accent makes these videos more professional. And overall, I seem to be speaking more clearly in this accent as well. So, it's an upside for me, and an upside for you as well, because you can hear me more clearly. But anyways, I'll see you in my next one. Peace out, and goodbye.